Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the MeanGene Show. We are streaming live here on podbean.com. It's a Monday, March 28th, 2022, and I hope you had a wonderful weekend. The weather was really nice here in Texas. I don't know about where you were located, but man, you're talking about 80, 85. So I really honestly do believe that we are done with cold weather. At least I hope we are. But anyway, folks, hey, oh my goodness, a lot of stuff to talk about on Mean Gene Show, including what happened at the Oscars last night, because for some reason that is the headline. Now I was all prepared to come in here and talk about the Elite Eight, Sweet 16, March Madness, the NBA games, and some major things have happened over in the NBA Eastern Conference standings. So we'll talk about that. Some great NBA games played over the weekend, but then last night because there wasn't a whole lot going on TV. I decided to sit down and watch the Oscars, and oh my goodness, things were moving along pretty good until Will Smith gets up on stage and smacks the hell out of Chris Rock. Now I'm thinking just like everybody else. I've lived in Hollywood. I've lived in Los Angeles, well, right outside of Hollywood. Lived there for 10 years. And I've actually had an opportunity to sit in on some movie productions and see the acting firsthand. And for a minute last night, I thought that maybe this was staged because it's the Oscars. Come on now. These folks are actually getting awards for their acting abilities, right? So, but I don't know. And then after watching multiple videos and reading stories, I woke up this morning reading about this and wanted to see exactly what the networks were going to be saying about this. And all indications are that this was the real deal. That actually happened. What we saw actually took place on stage. Will Smith actually went up there and smacked the hell out of Chris Rock, and then of course he did win an Oscar last night for portraying the father, King Richard, Richard Williams, the father of Venus and Serena, who, by the way, was in attendance last night. And I tell you what, if you have time today, because we're not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about the Oscars, okay? I can't believe we started out the show with the Oscars, but if you get time, just Google. There's more than enough information out there on what happened at the Oscars. But some of the other movie stars' reaction to what happened is mind-boggling. Some of it is just really, if you see some of the facial expressions of some of the people in the audience and what happened. But anyway, just crazy stuff. Okay, so once again, you listen to the Mean Gene Show. We're streaming live here on Podbean, talking about everything that took place in the world of sports this weekend. And we are definitely going to look at the Elite Eight, we'll start with the Sweet 16, the Elite Eight. We'll look at that. We'll look at the NBA as far as what happened Friday night and get you caught up on all the NBA standings. Things are just really looking crazy over in the Eastern Conference of the NBA, and of course, same thing over in the Western Conference. So, but anyway, hey, the Final Four is set. Okay, and what a Final Four it is going to be. We have Kansas versus Villanova in one semifinals. Then we have Duke versus North Carolina in another one. All of that's going to take place in New Orleans this weekend. Either way, we're going to have an awesome championship game next Monday, April 4th. Now, I really had to think about this because I just got back from New York with Mr. Picks. We were out there promoting the Mean Gene Show, promoting his new up and coming show. And Mr. Picks, of course, is a sports betting expert. And we will have him on the show here in a couple of weeks here prior before we get down to Vegas for the NFL draft. But anyway, we had a great week out there in New York. Glad to be back home. But the Final Four is set. And what I was going to say is that I really thought about going over to New Orleans for the Final Four. I went there a few years ago, and ironically, Kansas was one of those teams that was in that tournament back then. I got a chance to see Anthony Davis when he was with Kansas. So, not going to make the trip. It would have been my fourth Final Four had I decided to go. I didn't even make the Sweet 16 because of all the traveling back and forth. coming from the East Coast. And then my allergies started to act up. So last week, I know I sounded kind of congested and everything. But anyway, I think we're getting back to normal. I'm still feeling somewhat congested a little bit, but anyway, I don't want to gross you guys out or anything with my conditions here. But I think I'm getting better with this, and I'm taking my medicines and all of that stuff. The allergy medicines, by the way. So, and we are going to recap Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the NC2A games, and just pretty much explain how we got to the Final Four, which is quite interesting. Some great matchups Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, of course, as things just sort of dwindle down. I'm really excited about the Final Four. These four teams, oh my goodness. Kansas has won a championship. Villanova has won a championship. Duke has won a championship. The Tar Heels from North Carolina has won a championship. So you got experience. And it's so funny how when these tournaments start, you get these brackets, and you have to work through all of these 64 teams to try to get down to who you need to get down to. Only one number one seed is in the Final Four, which I told you a couple of weeks ago that when you get to this, it's rare that you get four number one seeds. I think it's maybe happened once or twice or so, maybe not that many times, but Kansas survives, and they are the only number one seed in here. But man, like I said, also you can throw out the seeds now because you got four. These are four good teams, and no matter how shaky the tournament gets, with upsets and the 15 seeds and 11 seeds, 10 seeds, stuff like that, we got the best Final Four, and those tickets are really gonna jump up. I know for a fact that it was probably like $300 or $400 to get to the Final Four, and that was before we knew who was going to be playing in the Final Four. Now that the Final Four is set, with these four teams, you're talking Kansas and Villanova, Duke versus North Carolina. That matchup alone is worth $1,000 if you look back to Coach K's last game at Duke when they played North Carolina. Those tickets were outrageous, and here you get a second rematch, so to speak, and this is crazy, and this is for all the marbles. So this is going to be exciting this weekend over in the at the Final Four. So let's just recap. Let's go back to Friday night when it all. So we had four games. We had St. Peter's, the 15 seed, played Purdue, and they won. They beat Purdue 67-64, and to make the Elite Eight. This was the first time a 15 seed, a low seed like that made the Elite Eight. Crazy. Okay, it was just, and you saw it coming, right? You just saw how those St. Peter's Peacocks from Jersey City really slowed things down for Purdue. Now, the one thing I could not understand with Purdue is they have the big kid. He's 7'4". I think his name is Edey, Edey. Did not understand why he did not play as much. So at first I thought he was in foul trouble. That wasn't the case. He finished the game with 11 points, 2 rebounds. And I think he only had, I don't know if he had no personal fouls, and I didn't see any injuries. And I just could not for the life of me figure out what the reasoning was for not having this kid stay in the game, where the times that they did go to him down low, it was no match. St. Peter's had no one that could guard this guy, 7'4". So I don't know. So I see these same things happen in the NBA when you see players dominating, or you see big man or anything going, dominating, and it just doesn't. And you figure like, okay, wow, you can just do this all day, and then all of a sudden, but that's not the game plan. The game plan is to shoot threes, move the ball around, or whatever the case. But anyway, I thought it was a game that Purdue had an opportunity to win, but for some reason I just don't know. I cannot figure it out. The other game that we watched on Friday was the Kansas and Providence. Now, this was a real close one. This was, as a matter of fact, the score 66-61. It really got out of hand. Kansas really kind of controlled that. Man, Ed Cooley and the Providence Friars, I really wanted to see them advanced. He's a hell of a coach. Has a great team there in Providence. But man, Kansas was that number one seed that just refused to go down. They had sat around and saw everybody else getting beat and going down, and they said, "No, we don't want no part of it." And Kansas wins that game on Friday night, 6-6, 6-1. And then the other matchup, which I thought they actually made like a little wager on this game. It was no money, but I lost the bet anyway. I thought the UCLA Bruins, the 4th seed, would beat the North Carolina Tar Heels, the 8th seed. And man, I tell you what, the North Carolina Tar Heels are probably the hottest team in this tournament. They just refused to go down. They beat UCLA 73-66 and pretty much controlled the game in the second half. UCLA, they were making runs, and every time UCLA would make a run, the Tar Heels came right back, and eventually UCLA just ran out of gas. So, and the Tar Heels won that game. And the other game, and the last game on Friday night was the Miami Hurricanes and the Iowa State Cyclones, and Miami controlled that game. They win 70-56 to advance on there to the Elite Eight. So this was just exciting basketball on Friday night, and then on Saturday we had over in the NCAA tournament we had the Elite Eight, the first of the Elite Eight. So the Houston Cougars had advanced, and so did Villanova, Arkansas, and Duke. They were already there as part of that Elite Eight. And man, what a game! The and this was your game on Saturday. Okay, so it was the Villanova Wildcats defeating the Houston Cougars 50-44, and that was it. I really thought Houston was going to win this game. I really, really did. But Villanova, the one thing about Jay Wright, tournament experience, and that just really what overtook Houston in this game. They just had no way to overcome the the uh, the style of play that Villanova exhibited in that game. So man, really, really thought Kelvin Sampson and the Cougars were going to get to the Final Four, but it didn't happen. Villanova gets into the Final Four from the Elite Eight, and then the night game was the Arkansas Razorbacks, the 4th seed, versus the Duke Blue Devils, the 2 seed. Now, I did have issues with this game in a sense that okay, we all know that Duke is probably favorite now to win this tournament, which it's I mean, I would have to say they are, but at the same time, I'm saying that because this is like a farewell tour. The Duke Blue Devils cannot lose now. They have made it too far, in my opinion. Okay, they beat Arkansas 78-69. Second half of the game was not even close. Arkansas just could not get it done against Duke. And back in 1994, they actually beat Duke for the national championship, which, of course, those kids that were playing wasn't even born then, I don't think. But nevertheless, Duke is moving along. I had problems, I guess, with Grant Hill calling the game. I know that the networks are going to just really go all out on Coach K. Now, I'm not gonna go as far as say that I think there was a lot of favoritism on the referee side in the Arkansas Duke game, but I think that game was called pretty fair. But you got, I want to keep an eye on what, how this North Carolina Duke game is gonna turn out here in the semifinals of the Final Four, which we'll be talking about that a little bit later. As a matter of fact, I think Dustin Pfeiffer, we get Dustin back on here and talk about the Final Four. We normally do a Final Four show. We did the Sweet 16 show. And by the way, speaking of Dustin Pfeiffer, looking at our brackets, okay, we're gonna go back to our brackets now. I mean, what's left of your bracket? I mean, most people have already just torn their brackets up and threw them away, and they're done with that. And I'm looking at the bracket that me and Dustin Pfeiffer did for our NCAA bracket tournament show. We only have one team that's left and in the Final Four, and that was Kansas. Yeah, it was we did not have Villanova, North Carolina, or Duke, but we had Kansas, And then, of course, I'll just stop there. You don't even want to know who we had to win in this bracket here. We had Gonzaga winning the whole thing, and we know how that turned out. But nevertheless, this is probably the worst bracket that we've ever done here. But we did have one. Just imagine not having anybody in. But I won't even tell you what place we in because it's pretty much pointless at this point to talk about. Uh, who we had. But man, it's just crazy. So the NCAA tournament bracket is pretty much done here. These final four we will not argue with at all, and so that's what happened on Saturday. And then, of course, looking at the Sunday games there in the March Madness tournament there of the Elite Eight, we had Miami, the 10th seed, taking on Kansas for the right to get to the Final Four. And it was the Jayhawks. The Jayhawks, 76-50. No match. No match. No match at all. I mean, Bill Self, games get tougher to win the farther you go. You get to the Elite Eight. And I believe one of the coaches, someone said that those are some of the tougher games. Now, it may not look like it on paper, Miami kind of hung in there in the first half of that game, but man, Kansas is just too much for them. Kansas, those shots start falling. Kansas couldn't miss anything at one particular point in that game, and I'm trying to see exactly how they shot from the field. 69. Actually, I take it back. So they were 50%. Yeah, 50% from the field. You can't go wrong. 29 of 58 shots went in. Uh, 5 of 14 3-pointers. And of course, free throws in the tournament hasn't been the best. But Kansas just, rebounds. They out rebounded the Miami Hurricanes 39-26. When you look at assists, 18 assists to Miami 7. And of course, points in the paint is what not only were they shooting the ball well, but points in the paint, inside the paint, they outscored Miami 42-20. And that's one of the reasons why the Jayhawks are getting it done. And that's why I'm saying this Final Four is going to be set up to be pretty damn interesting, pretty damn good. So you definitely want to be close to your TV set this weekend as the Final Four kicks off. And then the last game of the Elite Eight and the right to go to the Final Four was the 15 seed St. Peter's Peacocks of Jersey City took on the North Carolina Tar Heels. So Hubert Davis and the Tar Heels had plenty of time to do their homework, and research St. Peter's. At some point, now they probably wasn't worried about these guys early on. Nobody was, but as you know, and this is why you have so many great scouts and assistant coaches on your staff because at some point in time, someone was given the word to let's really scout this team. Let's see what they're doing. Let's see how they do it. Let's see what they are doing, and we got to stop this momentum. You just kind of looking out of the side of your eye, saying, "Okay, yeah, we might have to play this team, but then again, somebody else might knock them off before we get to them." Purdue couldn't do it, Kentucky couldn't do it, and they beat some teams. As a matter of fact, Hubert Davis said, "Hey, they beat teams that we lost to." So they had to put some eyes on this team here to see how they were going to game plan, and they game planned effectively. They did a hell of a job. They did a hell of a job stopping St. Peter's from doing what they normally, would do. They beat them 69-49, and it just wasn't close at all. Okay, it was never close in this game. And man, you kind of, you like to see that Cinderella story advances, but man, North Carolina, I said, was one of the hottest teams. They just got better, hotter and hotter and hotter as this tournament went on. But offensive rebounds, they beat the Peacocks 12-4. Let's see what else they controlled. Second chance points, they beat them, 14-7. But it was just one of those games where they just wouldn't let that offense get going and give it up to Hubert Davis and the coaching staff for, not being the casualty of St. Peter's Peacocks, which, man, so many teams were. And, the only high note that I can say for the Peacocks, 90%, they were 9 to 10 shooting from the free throw line, but everything else belongs to the North Carolina Tar Heels. So there was just no way they was going to win that game. And rebounding, because, man, North Carolina is big. And I think one of the broadcasters had said that before the game started, that this is one reason why they would not be able, they're just not going to have the ball in their hand enough to do anything with it. So rebounding, they out rebounded St. Peter's. North Carolina out rebounded St. Peter's 45-29. So if you just, and you could see that was going to happen with the height that those guys had. So anyway, it was a great game for the Tar Heels. Anyway, 69-49. But I think when you look at the St. Peter's team here, and I just want to say that I think their coach has, and that's Rashawn Holloway. I can almost guarantee you, and I don't know what St. Peter's is paying this guy, but I can almost guarantee you that he's going to get another job somewhere. You just see it. You already know it's going to happen. You know for a fact that, with this 10-game winning streak that he brought in there to the tournament, beating teams like Kentucky, Purdue, there's no way that this guy doesn't get another job. And we saw that with Shaka Smart when he coached VCU. And Shaka Smart has had several jobs, and, man, he's gotten paid. But I would think that the coach here, and I hope I'm saying his name right, is going to get a job somewhere, and it's going to be coming. It might happen this year. That school, which is so small, they are going to have to scrap everything that they have in order to save him and pay him. And he might just get that contract. He just really seems like a really cool dude. And I think there's a chance that he might just stay there. But, man, just a calm coach. When you listen to him talk, I don't know. He is just so laid back, and I think he knew that he was probably in over his head, especially when it came to the to that game against North Carolina. But, man, anyway, the Tar Heels are in the Final Four again. I saw them in the Final Four in Villanova that year in Houston. I can't remember exactly the year, but I know for a fact that both of those teams were in the Final Four just a few years ago. So, man, like I said, the Final Four stage is all set, and we are looking forward to some great basketball this weekend, this Saturday, as the Final Four get ready to kick off. And that's April 2nd, by the way. And then April 4th is the national championship game. Who's going to be in there? Listen up for the MeanGene Show with Dustin Pfeiffer as we do. And it's probably going to be Friday. I think we're going to do that show Friday, and that'll be on iHeartRadio. So make sure you listen up for that show as we get you ready for the Final Four. Okay, well, how about the NBA? Now, I I didn't take my eyes off the NBA, but I was so hyped up about the games this weekend, the NCAA games, that I didn't really watch a lot of NBA games. I can tell you that, but I did see a few, and I saw some yesterday, and I saw some on Saturday. But I look, we're going to talk about it. We are going to talk about what is going on in the Eastern Conference. Oh my goodness, you have to keep your eye on this stuff because, man, things just change here mighty quick. So looking at Friday night, because I know when I did the show Thursday that the Miami Heat was still the number one seed in the Eastern Conference. I know that for a fact. And then this morning I look at the NBA standings. Oh my goodness, completely different. So how about we just go look at some of the games that happened on Friday, some of the more notable games, And the Charlotte Hornets, and I know Dustin Pfeiffer is probably having a field day because he covers the Charlotte Hornets and the Carolina Panthers for Bally Sports Southeast. The Charlotte Hornets is hot all of a sudden. They defeated the Jazz on Friday night, 107-101. And they're down there with the Brooklyn Nets trying to jockey for that eighth spot, which, is still part of that play-in tournament. But Charlotte gets the win on Friday night at home. They knock off the Utah Jazz. And man, Bridges put in 26 points, 11 rebounds. Donovan Mitchell, 26 points. So Charlotte is just really getting things done. Another uh, big upset, in my opinion, on Friday night was the Atlanta Hawks over the Golden State Warriors. And people are wondering, like, well, what is going on with the Warriors? Klay Thompson dropped in 37 points, 7 rebounds. Trae Young, 33 points, 15 assists, 4 rebounds. So watch out for the Hawks. I don't think they're gonna. They could make things interesting in the NBA Eastern Conference. I just think they're right now they're the 10th in the 10th spot, which they would have an opportunity. The last thing you want is these bottom tier teams in the standings to start playing good, especially if you're in the 10th. If you're in the 10th, 8th, and the 7th spot, you just got to watch it, and things are really, and everybody's winning, and even the Nets, everybody's winning in that category. From the Cavaliers are in the 7th spot, but the Hornets, the Nets, the Hawks, even the Knicks, all enjoying some win streaks here, which could make that late run there for that play-in tournament mighty interesting over in the NBA standings. Now, another game that took place on Friday night. Like I said, great action Friday night. I just didn't get to see a lot of it. The Heat. The Heat lose to the Knicks, and they were at home, 111-103. Not sure what's going on with the Heat. It just seems like after that little melee there involving Udonis Haslam and Eric Spoelstra, it seemed like it's starting to have a toll on the Knicks for some reason. I don't know. It's something that you don't want to see. You never want to see the chemistry of a team, blow up like that. And that was just not good. I don't know how they recover, and it seems like they're not recovering because they have lost first place in the Eastern Conference, and that is not good. That is not good. So we're going to keep an eye on it because there's a log jam there in the Eastern Conference for the top 4 teams, and I'll go over those standings here in a minute. But the Knicks did get the win Friday night at Miami, 111-103. The Timberwolves at home on Friday night, hosting the Dallas Mavericks. The T-Wolves win 116-95. Wasn't even close, people. And I told you about the Minnesota Timberwolves. Luka Doncic did play. He dropped in 24 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, nearly had a triple-double. But Karl Anthony Towns, 20 points, 9 rebounds, 1 steal. And over, and let's look at the standings right quick over in the West. I believe last time we talked about Minnesota, they were in the 7th spot. So they're still there. Look like they only have room to move up. They're not going to drop to the 8th spot. They have at least a 7-game lead over the Clippers right now in the 8th spot there. So don't worry about Minnesota going south. If anything, they're going up top there, and they are a game and a half behind the 6th spot, which belongs to the Denver Nuggets. So I would say keep an eye on those standings as well as they continue to change and shift here as we near the end of the NBA regular season. And those were pretty much there's one more game. The 76ers. 76ers got a much needed win on the road. They played the Clippers last Friday night. They win 122-97. Wasn't even close in that game. James Harden finally showed up. Boy, we've been talking about what happened to James Harden. The first couple of James Harden games was pretty spectacular, and then he dropped off a little bit. Now seems like he's back. He had 29 points, 15 rebounds on Friday night and to beat the Clippers 120-97. Then on Saturday, the action got even better as it seemed like the Memphis Grizzlies, woohoo, What are we going to do about Memphis? What are we going to do about this team that just goes out there and plays lights out basketball every time they get on the court? And I know the Milwaukee Bucks did not see this coming. You're going to tell me that the Milwaukee Bucks would lose if you would have told me that the Milwaukee Bucks was going to lose to the Memphis Grizzlies without John Morant, I would have said, nah, that ain't happening. We're talking about the defending champions who won the NBA championship last year, and that is the Milwaukee Bucks. They lose, and they just didn't lose. They got blown out. They lose 127 to 102, 25 points there. Memphis Grizzlies with a 52-23 record. Well, at that time, anyway, they were 52-23. The Bucks 46-28, and they got it done. They got it done without John Morant, and I'm still trying to figure out how the hell that happened. But we look at some of the box scores there because John Morant did not play, folks. He is still out with this right knee that he has a lot of soreness in. But man, who got it done? Once again, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players in double figures, and that's what's happening with Memphis, man. These guys know how to play team ball. Bain dropped in 20 points, and Sam Adams 11 rebounds. That's always huge. And Jaren Jackson 16 points, and Brooks put up 19 points. So it's just a team effort, night in, night out, when it comes to the Memphis Grizzlies, and that's what makes them so exciting. They are pretty much must-see TV now to watch them play. And the Milwaukee Bucks came up short, very short that night, losing to Memphis on the road. Giannis had 30 points, and that was it. Middleton 16, and they couldn't get any help anywhere else on offense. And Memphis just took care of business, got it done, and continues to shine and hold steady at that number 2 spot in the NBA Western Conference standings. I just think, as a matter of fact, that game, I believe, when they beat the Milwaukee Bucks that night, they actually clinched a playoff berth. So right now, I don't see anyone coming anywhere close. The Warriors 4 games behind. You know, it could happen. Memphis is on a 4-game win streak, by the way, so it could happen. I doubt it, but man, woo wee, because no one is hot as the Phoenix Suns, and you know what an appropriate name, the Sun. The Suns are hot, and they should be. They have won 8 straight in the NBA, and let's talk about what they did over the weekend as well here. So I don't think they played on Saturday. Some other games on Saturday, notable to mention, the Miami Heat. They lose to the Brooklyn Nets, 110-95. So Miami ends up playing, they played Friday night. They lose to the Knicks, a home game. Then they play a back-to-back home game. They lose to the Brooklyn Nets, 110-95. And just like we just mentioned here a minute ago, uh, what's going on with Miami? And that this loss right here is the one that kicked the Heat, I believe, out of first place in the Eastern Conference, as the Brooklyn Nets go in there and get a good win against the Miami Heat on Saturday night. And let's see, Kevin Durant, 23 points, 5 assists, and Bam Adebayo led all scores. Did he lead all scores? With 14 points? Man, that's horrible if that was the case. And basically, that's the case. He had 14 points, Kyle Lowry, 12 points. Jimmy Butler played 25 minutes and only had 7 points. So you got to think that whatever happened on that Miami bench between Haslam and Coach Eric Spoelstra and Jimmy Butler is really taking its toll on the Miami Heat. Victor Oladipo played 25 minutes, 9 points. That's the one guy that we thought would be the spark plug that the Miami Heat needed to stay where they were. But I don't know. I just think team chemistry now is just shot after that incident, which they are, downplaying as, hey, good competitiveness amongst, teammates. I don't buy it. I'm not buying that at all. I'm not buying it at all. I think something seriously has gone bad with the Miami Heat. and we're going to find out about it here as time moves on. But anyway, let's see, the Chicago Bulls, man, the Bulls needed a win in a bad way, uh, because they have just been slipping and sliding. They win Saturday night over the Cleveland Cavaliers 98-94. And like I said, they were on a major slide there. So now, hey, they're in the win column. And then the Cleveland Cavaliers, they are continuing to spiral downward. I don't know what's going on with them. They at one particular time was ranked number 3 or 4 there, so they have lost 3 in a row. And I tell you what, they may drop. They might drop down with the Nets, the Hawks, and the Hornets. The way they are playing ball right now, you get the Hornets have won 2 in a row. Nets on a little streak there. The Hawks on the streak. Hell, even the Knicks, who have the 11th spot right now, they on a 3 games win streak. And Cleveland, man, I don't know. They just falling backwards. So I want to. Speaking of Cleveland, I am going to do a show on iHeartRadio with a great friend of mine, and he actually wants to break into the sports talk business here, and we're going to talk. And he lives in Cleveland, Ohio. Uh, Browns, Cavaliers, anything Cleveland, the Guardians, you name it. He's all Cleveland. So we're going to have a show talking about Cleveland, and believe me, we're going to talk about these Cavaliers and get his thoughts and opinions. Terry Taylor is his name. So we're going to talk about all things Cleveland, the Ohio players, the OJs, anything that's got to do with Cleveland. So if you're from Cleveland, you don't want to miss this show, because we're going to be talking about all things Cleveland a little bit later on. I think that show is going to actually happen today on iHeartRadio. So make sure you listen up for that podcast. So that was Saturday night's action in the NBA. And we'll move over to what took place yesterday. All of the home teams won yesterday, with the exception of the Nets. Okay, so it started out with the Suns, the Phoenix Suns, and the 76ers, which was like, this is like top billing, right? You think that the 76ers, they've been doing well, peaking, is the word that I was looking for. But they still in that 4th spot there, and actually they dropped. So they're in the 4th spot there. Yeah, I think they did drop. So they're 46-28, 4th place in the Eastern Conference, but they lose to the red hot Phoenix Suns. The Suns have won 8 in a row. And remember, they were the first team to actually clinch a playoff spot. Well, how about this? With a record of 61-14, they have actually clinched the conference. No one's going to catch up with them, okay? Not the division, but the conference. The Phoenix Suns, winners of 8 in a row. They have a record of 36-9 in the conference, so no one's going to touch them. But man, what a job! What a job Monty Williams is doing with this Phoenix Suns team. We're talking about a team that made the NBA Finals last year, was heavily favored to win over the Milwaukee Bucks. They lose to the Bucks, but a lot of pressure on Chris Paul. And by the way, Chris Paul is back, so I don't expect the Phoenix Suns to just to lose anymore. I mean, they're probably gonna lose a game or two here, but man, you got to keep this momentum going. Chris Paul was out, remember, for a while, and now he's back, and he definitely is going to be a major factor in their success and getting them back to the NBA Finals. Of course, now they got a lot of competition in the West. You got the Grizzlies, you got the Warriors, you got the Mavericks, the Jazz, you even got the Minnesota Timberwolves. So even right now, let's just say the first round matchup is probably going to be the Suns versus either the Clippers or the Timberwolves. I don't know. The Pelicans has jumped the Lakers after they win last night over the Lakers, so they're in that 9th spot. So you got the Lakers, Pelicans, and Clippers all in this play-in tournament, but neither one of them would beat and even the Timberwolves. Neither one of them would beat a Phoenix Suns team. This Suns team is legit, and they are going to um, cause problems for a lot of people. Chris Paul actually had a pretty good game yesterday. So Joel Embiid had 37 points in that game. Chris Paul, 19 points, 4 rebounds, 14 assists. So he comes back and just makes a hell of a difference. And watch out for this Phoenix Suns team, who has to be the favorite to win the NBA Finals, regardless of who comes out of the East. I think, and I know Milwaukee is going to try to make the case for getting back there, but I don't know. I would not bet against the Phoenix Suns. So the Golden State Warriors, they lose another game to the Washington Wizards, 123-115. Not sure what's happening with Golden State. They are on a slot. Jordan Poole, 26 points in that game. Porzingis, who still has a lot of game left in him, 23 points for the Wizards. So, here's another scary thing about playing teams that are going nowhere in the NBA playoffs. And the Warriors, I know they can't wait to get back home. They had a road trip scheduled because, remember, the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight was played in their stadium, the Chase Arena there in San Francisco. So I know the Warriors can't wait to get back home. Another game that was played yesterday. How about the red hot Boston Celtics? You want to know how hot the Celtics are? I'm going to tell you. They defeated the Minnesota Timberwolves at home yesterday, 134-112. But in doing so, guess who? Guess who is the number one team in the Eastern Conference right now? The number one seed is the Boston Celtics. We talked about the Celtics last week. I told you this team was just peaking. And oh my goodness, you got a brand new coach there. You got a hell of a team there. And um, Tatum and all of these guys, Brown. Udoka is doing a hell of a job coaching these guys. The Boston Celtics have won 6 in a row. They are now in first place. Well, I mean, they're sort of tied with the Heat, but the Miami Heat has lost 4 games in a row, 2 after the incident involving Haslam and Jimmy Butler and Coach Spoelstra. And no, I did not see the Celtics jumping up to the top spot there in the East. I figured, okay, well, the Bucks would get there maybe because they've been streaking, or the 76ers would have a chance. I knew the Bulls wasn't going to get there, but man, the Celtics, it's just like a horse race. You get that one horse that just comes from behind and gets a nose in there right at the end, and that's and we still got a couple of games left there, but man, the Celtics uh, basically, in looking at the Eastern Conference standings, you almost have a four-way tie because you got the Celtics and the Heat. They're tied, even though the Heat has clinched a playoff spot. And this is crazy because Boston hasn't really clinched a playoff spot yet, but although they are in first place in the Eastern Conference. So this is what you got here. You got the Celtics number one, Heat number 2, Bucks number 3, 76ers number 4, Bulls in the 5th spot, Raptors in the 6th spot, Bulls in the 5th spot, I'm sorry, Raptors in the 6th spot, Cavaliers in the 7th spot, and the 8th spot is right now it's tied between the Hornets and the Nets. Okay, that's going to change. Then the Hawks are in the 10th spot, the Knicks are in the 11th spot. So things are going to change. Remember, Kyrie Irving now is allowed to play, athletes are allowed to play, and the vaccine mandate was lifted by Mayor Adams of New York City. So now Kyrie Irving is allowed to play. So watch the Nets. The Nets will probably move up, but I don't know. The Hornets had to have stunned them. No one saw that coming either. No one saw the Hornets overtaking and just keeping Brooklyn down. And these were games that Brooklyn needed to win, and they didn't win. And speaking of Brooklyn and the Hornets, yesterday the Hornets beat them 119-110, and I believe this was Kyrie Irving's first game in Brooklyn, if I'm not mistaken. So they win 119-110, and that's who's getting in their way. It's the Hornets. The lowly Hornets. And now I know most people will say, "Hey, our team is not low, man. We're doing some great things." But yeah, they have the Nets number right now, and the Nets cannot get out of that 8th spot. And right now, they would have to play the Boston Celtics if the playoffs was starting today, which I don't know. Man, Boston is just red hot. You don't want to play the Boston Celtics right now, Brooklyn Net fans, but who knows? I mean, there's still a lot of basketball left there, and then you got this play-in tournament. But anyway, so that's the action pretty much. Oh, and well, the Mavericks beat the Jazz last night, 114-100. The Pelicans beat the Lakers. This is like a uh, broken record there. Oh, you know, and now that I'm thinking about it here, I did mispronounce Coach Holloway's name from St. Peter's is Shaheen Holloway, who I believe is going to get another job in the NCAA. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure I got that right. But anyway, Pelicans beat the Lakers 116-108. Mavericks beat the Jazz 114-100. The Lakers, I don't know if I have any more anything left to say about the Lakers. I just don't think the Lakers are going to make the playoffs. And I don't think the Lakers should make the playoffs. I think all Laker fans should just be relieved and be done with the season when it's over with than to have to stress even more than we've already stressed. And I say we because I'm a Laker fan, but why put us through any more heartbreak and disappointment by getting into this play-in tournament and simply losing? Because I don't think the Lakers right now, they are in and this is embarrassing. The Pelicans, the Pelicans are better than the Lakers. Pelicans have a record 32-43. Lakers are 31-43. The Spurs right now could potentially catch the Lakers. The Lakers could drop all the way down to the 13-14 because there's only 2 games there, 2 or 3 games that separate the Lakers from the Spurs and the Portland Trailblazers. And I think Laker fans would agree with me that why? Why go through the misery and knowing that your team is not going to do anything? And that's basically and look, that's just how I see it. But it's just been a disappointment. I know LeBron James is out there accomplishing what he needs to accomplish from a personal standpoint. He's not far from surpassing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for the league's all-time scoring. Uh, you know, and I don't know. It's just too much. I think the Lakers should just go ahead and drop on down to that 13-14, be out of this play-in tournament, which starts, by the way, April 12th through the 15th. That's when that play-in tournament starts for the NBA. And then the NBA season, I believe, starts on April 16th. The NBA playoffs, I'm sorry, starts on April 16th. So that is the NBA. And of course, let's look at the standings over in the Western Conference because I don't think I mentioned those to you. The Suns are in the first place right now. The Grizzlies in the 2 spot there. The number 3 spot belongs to the Golden State Warriors. They are 2 games better than the Mavericks, but the Mavericks are doing pretty good there. The Mavericks hold the 4th spot there in the NBA Western Conference standings. Utah Jazz holds the 5th spot. Nuggets with the 6th spot. Timberwolves got the 7th spot. Right now, the Clippers got the 8th spot, but the Clippers have lost 5 in a row. So I don't expect to see much out of those seeds from 8, 9, 10, 11. No one's going to beat the Phoenix Suns anyway, so it really won't matter. Okay, well, you know what? We're just about to wrap things up here. I think before we do wrap things up, let me remind you of the games that are on tap tonight in the NBA Monday. March 28th should be interesting, actually. Denver Nuggets at the Charlotte Hornets. I told you the Hornets are looking pretty good there. Orlando Magic at the Cleveland Cavaliers. Atlanta Hawks at Indiana Pacers. Chicago Bulls at Madison Square Garden taking on the New York Knicks. Sacramento Kings at the Miami Heat. Keep an eye on that one. See if Miami is going to lose their 5th game in a row. Sacramento Kings is not a bad team, especially after picking up Sabonis. And you got the Boston Celtics at the Toronto Raptors. Should be a good one as well. Spurs at the Rockets. Golden State Warriors at the Memphis Grizzlies. That's going to happen tonight. That should be a good one. And then you got Oklahoma City Thunder at Portland. So I would definitely keep an eye on the Warriors and the Grizzlies, the Kings and the Heat, Knicks and the Bulls, because the Knicks are peaking. Bulls trying to maintain their place in the standings. They certainly don't want to slide. The Hawks are definitely trying to get into the play-in tournament, so that definitely be a good matchup tonight. Cavaliers, same thing. They're trying to stay in the standings there. They have lost 3 in a row. They're going to try to avoid their fourth straight loss tonight in Cleveland. I can't wait to talk to Terry Taylor about all things Cleveland here later on, and then of course the Hornets. So the NIT Final Four is set. How about that? Now I know we don't. This is the championship week for the NIT. It's their Final Four, and you have Xavier versus Saint Bonaventure. They're gonna play in the first semifinal game. That's gonna be tomorrow night on ESPN, and then you have Texas A&M versus Washington State. I think that's the Huskies or Cougars. I always get those mascots mixed up there in the state of Washington. But you got Texas A&M versus Washington State. That game will also be played tomorrow night, but it's going to be on ESPN2 after the Xavier Bonaventure game. Now, the NIT championship game is going to be played on March 31st at Madison Square Garden. I actually would love to see Xavier and Texas A&M in the championship game of the NIT tournament. I think both of those teams should have been playing in the NCAA tournament. They were just playing some great basketball throughout the college season. Texas A&M made it all the way to the SEC championship tournament game there before the March Madness tournament, and I really thought they were going to get in. They beat some pretty good teams, getting their way to the SEC championship game, but they didn't make it. Xavier, really good team there. So anyway, and it's just fair that they got this second chance. I'm so glad that they did accept the NIT invitation, because these two teams, Xavier and Texas A&M, you're going to hear from them next year. You're talking about an SEC conference that is just jam packed with Arkansas, Tennessee, Alabama, LSU, Kentucky, and watch out for Texas A&M. Okay, well, we will. I think that's going to wrap things up for this show. Yep, I think it is. I think we are pretty much done here. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember to check out the podcast on podbean.com, iTunes, Odyssey, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Also, you can follow the MeanGene Show on Twitter at Sports Kings. Enjoy your Monday. We'll be back tomorrow here on the MeanGene Show, streaming live here on Podbean. We'll have the latest on the NFL free agency. We'll talk a little bit more about the NFL draft, which is going to take place April 28th, 1 month from today, on my birthday, actually, April 28th, in Las Vegas. We are going to be in Las Vegas. The Mean Gene Show will be in Las Vegas for the NFL draft. Cannot wait. And let's see, I know for a fact we have some interviews from one of the top college prospects. He played at Texas A&M, so we're going to have that for you. That will probably be on the iHeart Radio show, but nevertheless, you'll still be able to hear that interview. And we'll talk more and more about the top prospects out there, the draft picks that are going to be selected, and teams and their needs. So I was trying to hold off until all of this free agency stuff sort of blew over, because there are still some kind of big name free agents out there that haven't been picked up yet. And normally, once that's done, then you kind of know what teams might be doing for the NFL draft. Now, some teams will actually trade some of those guys. You see a lot of trade. I think there might be a lot of trades in this draft, but we got 4 weeks to kind of get you prepared, talk about it. So if you're an NFL fan like I am, that's going to be exciting. So enjoy your Monday. We'll be back tomorrow on the Mean Gene Show, streaming live here on podbean.com.